What if one man built a personal aeroplane so efficient it outperformed the best-selling piston single in the world? Faster, longer range, bigger cabin, on less horsepower. What if that aeroplane won every efficiency competition it entered and then never went into production because Beechcraft was in financial trouble? Today, meet the Scaled Composites Model 81, Bert Rutan's Catbird. To understand the Catbird, you have to understand the Bonanza, because the Bonanza is one of the greatest success stories of American aviation. First flew in December 1945, entered production in 1947, and has been continuously built ever since, which makes it one of the longest continuously produced aircraft in history. Longer than the Boeing 737, longer than the Cessna 172. Over 17,000 have been built. Almost every doctor with a pilot's license in America owned one at some point in their career. It is the aviation equivalent of the Porsche 911, refined slowly over decades until it is very, very good at what it does. Every year, new avionics, new engine variants, new paint schemes, same basic aircraft. But that steady refinement was also its weakness, because by the mid-1980s, the Bonanza was still using 1940s architecture, aluminium construction, riveted panels, a cabin shaped by the manufacturing constraints of the immediate post-war era. The modern G36 Bonanza runs a 300 horsepower Continental IO 556 cylinder, cruises at around 176 knots, range about 920 nautical miles, burns 15 gallons an hour, which is honest performance, but not extraordinary performance, especially given how much fuel it drinks and how much engine it needs to hit those numbers. Somebody looking at the Bonanza in the mid-80s with fresh eyes could easily conclude that composites, a cleaner aerodynamic design, and better weight distribution could beat those numbers on far less horsepower, which nobody in Wichita, Kansas was seriously proposing to do. Because Wichita, home of Beechcraft since 1932, was a town whose entire aviation industry was built around aluminium construction, rivet guns, sheet metal jigs, certification pathways that treated composites as an unproven material, and that somebody who took a fresh look was, as it turned out, one of the most unconventional aerospace engineers in history. Not from Wichita, from California. 40 years of steady refinement, aluminium construction, 15 gallons an hour to move 4 people at 176 knots, all of which was fine. Right up until a man in the Californian desert decided to redesign the whole thing from a blank sheet of paper. Bert Rutan, by 1985, was already a legend in aviation. He had designed the Varieze, then the Long Easy, then the Voyager, which in 1986 became the first aircraft to fly around the world non-stop without refueling. His company Scaled Composites in Mojave, California, had built more one-off unusual aircraft than any workshop in America, and most of them looked wrong. Canards up front, winglets on the tips, fuselages that curved in weird places, wingtips that curled up instead of ending, landing gear that folded in unconventional ways, leaving pilots scratching their heads. And yet, every one of them worked, and most of them worked better than the aircraft they were competing against. The Varieze home-built kit had already sold over 3,000 plans by the early 1980s, which for a completely unconventional canard aircraft with pusher propeller was properly staggering. In a category where the standard home-built configuration was a Piper Cub clone, Rutan was selling 3,000 copies of an aeroplane that looked like it had come from a science fiction magazine. Rutan was not a fringe designer. He was a serious commercial force, working out of a small hangar in the desert. Because Rutan was doing something most designers never did. He was building composite aircraft to shapes that were actually optimal aerodynamically, instead of shapes that were easy to build in aluminium, which turned out to be quite different shapes. At the time, Rutan's own aircraft was a twin-engine canard he had designed called the Defiant, which was clever, but he wanted something better, something that carried 5 people. Cross-country fast, cross-country efficient, and with the volume and cabin comfort that a Bonanza owner would recognize, but without any of the Bonanza's compromises, which is where the Catbird got its brief. A personal aircraft that Rutan himself wanted to fly. and which incidentally could probably replace the Bonanza in Beechcraft's lineup if the numbers worked out, because, as it happened, Scaled Composites was owned by Beechcraft at the time, which meant Rutan was designing his personal aircraft on his employer's dime, and his employer was hoping quietly that the personal aircraft would turn into the next generation of Bonanza, a personal 5-seat aeroplane, designed by the man who circumnavigated the world non-stop, owned by a company that made the Bonanza. The intent was clear. Whether Beechcraft would ever actually build it was a completely different question. Walk up to the Catbird on a ramp and your brain tries to process it in pieces, because most aeroplanes have one main wing and a horizontal stabilizer at the back. That is it. 2 lifting surfaces. The Catbird has 3. A small canard up near the nose, a conventional main wing in the middle, and a small horizontal stabilizer on top of a T-tail at the back, which sounds mad until you understand what each surface is doing. In a conventional aeroplane, the tail plane is normally pushing down to keep the nose of the aircraft up, balancing the pitch. Rutan added a canard wing at the front to create lift, which reduces the need for downward pressure on the tail plane and also reduces the size of the main wing, as the canard is also carrying some of the aircraft weight. The tail plane on the Catbird doesn't actually carry much weight in level flight, but instead improves pitch stability, trim across wide speed ranges, control authority during landing, and improves overall handling. The 3-surface layout gives you the best of both worlds. Its canard up front generates positive lift for cruise efficiency. Its T-tail at the back provides proper pitch authority for landing and low-speed handling, and the main wing providing lift as usual, which means the whole aeroplane is more efficient. The whole airframe is built from carbon fiber composite, which meant Rutan could shape it however aerodynamics demanded, not however aluminium sheet metal permitted. The wing has a laminar flow airfoil designed for the very smooth surfaces that only composite skins can produce, because on riveted aluminium, even a perfect laminar flow airfoil design gets ruined by the surface roughness of the rivets and lap joints. On a Catbird wing, the surface is glass smooth. No rivets, no lap joints, just perfectly molded composite, which means the aerodynamics actually work at cruise, where they matter most. The gear retracts, which most Bonanza owners already expect, but the composite tooling let Rutan do something else. He could shape the wheel wells and the fuselage to be aerodynamically clean around the retracted gear, something that is very hard to do in aluminium. And the cabin is enormous by general aviation standards, because Rutan simply drew the fuselage around 5 human beings comfortably and let the composite tooling produce it. In an aluminium aircraft, you tend to design around rectangular sheet stock, because sheet stock is what your factory buys, which pushes the cabin toward being smaller than the humans inside it actually need. Composite construction has no such constraint, so the Catbird's cabin feels like a family estate car, where a Bonanza's cabin feels like the front of an older sports car. 3 lifting surfaces, carbon composites, a laminar wing that only works because there are no rivets to ruin it, and a cabin sized like a family car. The design was theoretically brilliant, but theory never wins arguments with the Bonanza crowd. So Rutan built the aeroplane, and in March 1988 they flew it. First flight, 14th of March 1988 at Mojave. The Catbird flew beautifully, and then the numbers started coming in. And this is where the story gets slightly humiliating for Beechcraft, because on paper the Catbird was doing everything the Bonanza did, only better and on less power. The Catbird ran a 210 horsepower Lycoming TYO 360 turbocharged, 4 cylinders, 90 fewer horsepower than a G36 Bonanza, but it hit a maximum speed of 238 knots, which is faster than the Bonanza, and a cruise of 218 knots, which is 30% faster than the Bonanza's 176. Rate of climb 2,000 feet per minute. Better than the Bonanza, on less than 3/4 of the horsepower. The math is not subtle. If you can go faster on less fuel while carrying the same load, you are simply extracting more useful work from every gallon. And that gap is not a marginal 5 or 10%. That is 30 to 40% efficiency improvement. In aviation, that is the sort of gap that entire generations of aircraft technology usually take 20 years to close. Rutan closed it in one prototype, on a workshop budget, which is either flattering to Rutan's genius or damning of how comfortable Beechcraft had grown after 4 decades of the Bonanza selling itself. Both readings are probably fair. Beechcraft's entire engineering department in Wichita was chasing incremental improvements. Rutan just showed up with a completely different aeroplane and left them 30% behind. The Catbird was doing that on such a scale that the CAFE Foundation, an American organization dedicated to measuring aircraft efficiency, took particular interest. Because efficiency is a slippery thing to measure. You cannot just compare miles per gallon between aeroplanes, because a fast, heavy aeroplane doing 16 miles per gallon might actually be more efficient than a slow, light aeroplane doing 20. Depending on how you weigh the trade-offs. CAFE's formula tried to capture all of it. Speed, fuel economy, payload, in a single number. The Catbird was about to walk into that competition and do something that had not been done before. Faster, better climb, fewer horsepower. On paper, the Catbird was doing everything a Bonanza did while burning less fuel to do it, which is the sort of thing you want to prove in a formal competition. So Rutan sent the aircraft to CAFE. The CAFE Foundation ran a competition called the CAFE 400, later renamed the CAFE Challenge. Aircraft raced a set course. Judges measured speed, fuel consumption, and payload, then combined the three into a single efficiency score. Speed to the 1.25 power times fuel economy times payload to the 0.75 power, which is not the kind of formula that lets you cheat. If you go faster, you burn more fuel. If you carry more payload, you go slower. To win, you have to properly have the most efficient aircraft in the field. In 1988, Mike Melville flew the Catbird in the California CAFE 400 and won. Then in 1993, Dick Rutan, Bert's brother, flew the Catbird in the CAFE Challenge and won again with a record-setting score: 210.73 miles per hour average speed, 20.15 miles per gallon, 976.63 pounds of payload on a single 210 horsepower engine. To put that in perspective, a Bonanza at that speed would burn roughly 13 or 14 miles per gallon. The Catbird was doing 20 on a 5-seat aircraft with 4 passengers on board and baggage. 2 decades of Bonanza refinement, beaten by one man in a workshop in the Mojave Desert. Then in 2014, after the Catbird had been restored to flying condition, the aircraft went out and set a world speed record over a 2,000-kilometer closed course, 339.5 kilometers per hour, about 211 miles per hour, which is basically the same speed the aircraft had been doing in 1993, which tells you something about how quickly Rutan's ideas actually aged, which was not much, because most 20-year-old sports cars would embarrass themselves against a modern equivalent. Most 20-year-old aircraft would embarrass themselves against modern equivalents, but the Catbird was still setting records against everything the industry had produced in the intervening 2 decades, which is either damning of the industry or complimentary to Rutan, depending on which way you look at it. Probably both. CAFE 400, 1988. CAFE Challenge 1993. World speed records in 2014. 3 different competitions, 3 different pilots, same aircraft, same result. So why did the aviation world not immediately switch to canard 3 surface composite aeroplanes? Because winning trophies and running a business are entirely different problems. Here is the honest answer. Beechcraft in the late 1980s was in financial trouble. General aviation as an industry was in financial trouble. The market for new light aircraft in America had collapsed from around 15,000 units a year in the late 70s to fewer than 1,000 a year by the late 80s. Product liability lawsuits had made insurance prohibitively expensive. Interest rates had strangled loan financing, and Beechcraft simply did not have the capital to certify a completely new composite aircraft and set up the manufacturing to build it, which is what the Catbird would have required. Because certification of a general aviation aircraft in the United States runs into the tens of millions of dollars, Setting up a composite production line runs into further tens of millions, and Beechcraft had a perfectly good product already selling. Modestly, the Bonanza, which was already profitable and already type certified. So the calculation was brutal. Sink $50 or $100 million into certifying and tooling a new aircraft that would eat sales from the existing Bonanza and might or might not find a market. Or keep building Bonanzas at low volume and stay solvent. Beechcraft made the obvious business decision, which is the decision every established manufacturer makes when a disruptive product shows up inside their own R&D department. Because innovation is expensive and cannibalizing your existing product line is terrifying. And in the middle of a market downturn, it feels like suicide. And in 1988, they sold Scaled Composites to the partnership of Rutan and the Wyman Gordon Company. Rutan bought the rights to the Catbird along with a number of other scaled designs, and the aircraft became his personal transport. It flew for years as Rutan's own aeroplane, then eventually was stored inverted, hanging upside down from the ceiling of the Scaled Composites hangar in Mojave, where it sat gathering dust for the better part of 2 decades, until in April of 2011. To commemorate Rutan's official retirement from Scaled Composites, a small team led by Zach Reeder, Jim Reed, and Mike Melville pulled it down, restored it, and flew it again on the 7th of July 2011, which is a lovely ending for what could easily have been just another warehoused prototype. A market that could not support a new aircraft, a company that could not risk the investment, and an aircraft that ended up hanging from a hangar ceiling for 2 decades before being flown again. Which brings us to what the Catbird actually meant, as opposed to what it did commercially. The truth about the Catbird is that Rutan was completely right. Composite construction, laminar wings, 3-surface configuration, careful drag reduction, all of it worked. The Catbird proved that a 5-seat single-engine aircraft could do everything a Bonanza did, on 30% less power, at 30% higher cruise, with substantially better fuel economy. As pure engineering, the Catbird was a comprehensive win. As pure trophies, it collected them. But pure engineering has never been enough to win in commercial aviation, because the aviation market is a market of certification, insurance, dealer networks, training, spare parts, and buyer trust. And the Bonanza had spent 40 years quietly building all of those things. The Catbird had a workshop in Mojave and a genius designer, which is a lot, but not enough. The Catbird sits today in the same category as the Bristol Brabazon, alongside brilliant failures like the Beech Starship and Lysa Akoya, aircraft that were technically brilliant, that proved concepts nobody had proven before, and that failed commercially for reasons that had almost nothing to do with the aeroplane itself. Rutan, of course, knew this, and he built the Catbird anyway, because he was, in the end, an engineer, not an accountant. And engineers build the best possible thing and let the accountants sort out what happens next, which is not always what the accountants would prefer, but which is exactly how every properly important aircraft has been designed. The DC-3, Boeing 747, Space Shuttle, Concorde, all of them started with somebody looking at the constraints of the previous generation and deciding those constraints were negotiable. And the Catbird belongs firmly in that tradition, even if it never sold more than one. Not by committee, not by market research, but by somebody who wanted to see if it could be done. The Catbird flies today, restored, occasionally displayed at air shows, and every time it climbs out of Mojave at 2,000 feet per minute on one turbocharged Lycoming 4-cylinder, somewhere in an office in Wichita, there is a Beechcraft engineer looking at the Bonanza production line, thinking about what could have been, which is really the whole story of general aviation in the second half of the 20th century. Brilliant designs, terrible economics, and one man in the Mojave Desert who kept building the future anyway, even when nobody else would. If this got you thinking, go watch our deep dives on other videos on our channel and tell us in the comments, would you have flown one instead of a Bonanza? Subscribe for more like this. Thanks for hanging out.